Sabrina 70s comic issue 49. At first I misread Hilda saying Martin says Martians, but that'd be too interesting. She says excitedly that the neighbors are putting in a swimming pool. Can Hilda not afford one? Because you think she'd have one, if she wants one. And if she magicked it up right away, people would have lasting proof that she's a witch. I guess she never thought about whether she'd want a pool before. Hilda naively looks forward to being invited to the pool and asks Mrs. Martin if she's almost finished, and it turns out they've stopped working on it because they're too poor, and they'll take another 3 months to have one. Sabrina wants Hilda not to do anything rash about this, and she asks who's gonna know. So she uses her magic to make them win the lottery, as they hear on the radio. I'm impressed, that's much more subtle than her just zapping up a pool. Then Della doesn't mind her own business and bitches at her for helping immediately, when she was nowhere to be found when she stopped a purse snatcher, so no wonder she assumed she'd be busy elsewhere. Shouldn't Hilda just explain to Della that she only helped for a selfish reason that she wants a pool? Della threatens to suspend her powers for a month. This would make sense if she was punishing her for interfering in the life of a mortal in a drastic way by cheating the lottery for them. But that's not it. She tells her she has to prove herself worthy to her. Hilda looks forward to getting access to the pool in a few days since Mrs. Martin's in a good mood and not the type to insult Hilda. So to make Della feel better, she has to use magic to make their son become a nature nut who's leaving law school to live in the woods with a family of raccoons. Does it have to be their son? Let me guess, that'll somehow prevent her from getting the pool. I guess she had no choice but to bother this family in particular. They'll be gone a week, and Hilda's asked to keep an eye on their pool in the meantime. Della thinks her good deed paid off. Was she even paying attention? Or spies? I mean, really? The Martins were clearly upset with their son. And their son didn't want to be productive anymore. But Della accuses them all of being a whole family of good people, and threatens to suspend all of their powers. To be fair, Ambrose is nice too. He says that because it's hot, they should discuss it somewhere else. And because Della agrees, she begins to see things their way, because she's enjoying lying in the sun on a thing floating in the pool. She's not even in the pool, which would let her see for herself better than anyone that the pool was worth it. Okay, I'm relieved that there's a happy ending, but it's so sudden that I'm not as appreciative as I'd want to be, because the whole time I was expecting a downer ending. I'm so surprised that Hilda got everything she wanted in the end that I'm just focused on the surprise. I think I like Amy from the 90s comic better than Della. At least she made sense, and she was good at what she did. As little as that was. Della just threatens and does nothing. I had this story from my Archie comics when I was a kid. In the next page, Ambrose says Hilda has to stop Harvey from raiding the fridge and cleaning them out. Why doesn't Ambrose do it? I guess he's just lazy. Because he's complaining, so it's not like he thought that he could just zap up the replacements for what he ate. She casts a spell that summons a meatloaf monster, which scares Harvey away, as he's somehow in the state of mind that he can quip about it instead of just screaming. Would anything in the stories really change if Harvey knew Sabrina and her family were witches the whole time, and believed that he wouldn't be able to get away with asking for them to use magic to help him? Sabrina helps him out with magic anyways, so all he has to do is wait. What difference would it make if he asks for it instead of his girlfriend deciding to do it without his consent? He'd learn that magic backfires just as well as she does. Hilda keeps scaring him with her magic, but he keeps coming back to her house anyways. But he cheats on Sabrina, so I guess he just wants to make sure he always has a girlfriend. And that's always Sabrina. There has to be a reason he hasn't replaced her permanently as the main girlfriend. It makes sense if the reason he was confusingly returning here was because Sabrina was casting a spell. In the next story, Sabrina complains that Hilda promised she'd weed the garden with Harvey and her. She'd never do that. She must have been in a really good mood. Why would she ever promise to do it the mortal way? She's relatable when she says that she hates getting her nails dirty. Wait, I thought the witch standard of beauty was that ugly witches looked the best. Wouldn't that include dirty nails? And wait a minute, Della looks great. Does she have the ugly curse put on her too? Because she doesn't even have a wart, and she's never been insulted for her appearance. Maybe that story about the ugly curse was just non-canon in a separate universe from this, because Hilda never said Della was ugly. Hilda wishes Sabrina would just zap the weeds away. Sabrina said she can't do that because what would Harvey think? Hilda's like, I didn't know he could. That was a clever quip. Well, she doesn't have to have Harvey there. But Hilda's point still stands. She should have zapped them away instead of asking Harvey to help. I guess she just wanted an excuse to spend time with Harvey, but she could do that without getting him to weed the garden. It's impossible to believe that a family of witches wouldn't zap the weeds away. Sabrina somehow insists that weeding is the fun part of gardening, as opposed to planting and watering. Hilda casts a spell and says, Gee, how about that, Sabrina? It's pouring rain. Now all I can do is take a nap. What a drag. I guess she's hoping Sabrina will buy it, because if she doesn't, she'd obviously just undo the spell immediately. And of course she does. Isn't it nice of Hilda to never brainwash her? She did try to make a potion to turn her evil. But I guess she changed her mind on that. And wait a minute, why doesn't Della force Hilda to make her drink that potion? If a potion like that can exist. Apparently the evil witch is against that when Hilda wasn't. I guess that early story was set in a parallel universe where no head witch would want to force that on Sabrina. Hilda says that she hates gardening because it's a backbreaker. That's true. But I thought she loved the petunias she was growing. Maybe what she means is that she hates gardening the mortal way. She said she's gonna sneak away on a broom. If she wanted to sneak away, why did she say it out loud? She flies past the bird and complains amusingly, he thinks the sky is just for him. And she's so distracted looking over at him that she flies into a tower and falls into a tree, which bends and flings her into the open top of a garbage truck, and I'm smiling now. She has a bottle on her head, and the garbage gets dumped, and suddenly she's lying in Sabrina's backyard in a daze. It's nice of Harvey to compliment her gardening clothes. But Hilda could have so easily avoided this if she went to the other realm through the closet, or simply said, No, I'm taking a nap, because I said so. She's the authority figure, not Sabrina. I hope my annoyance at her aunt's leniency will convince me not to hate them in the animated series comic for being too strict. Nope. I'm pretty sure it won't. If this story has the title, The Green Thumb, then I definitely had this as a kid. Well, I don't know what exactly my age was when I got the Sabrina stories. In the next page, Sabrina uncharacteristically asks a genie for help instead of just using magic herself. She hasn't done this in a while. I wish it was explained that 1, she's doing this because her own magic backfires too much and she's desperately hoping the genie isn't as jinxed, or 2, she's spending time without her powers and is using a genie that Hilda gave her as a replacement. But Della will be mad at her for trying to get around not having her powers. Anyways, she asks for a quick tan for Harvey, and the genie fails science forever by thinking a giant magnifying glass would do the trick well. And he just burns his derriere and sends him into the ocean. Why didn't he just point at him and give him a quick tan? Why was that too hard for him to visualize? It was kind of amusing to see though, and logically genies wouldn't be infallible. Nobody really is. In the next page, Hilda and Sabrina see an ice cream wagon in the sky, since they're not the only witches out there. I guess she casts a spell so that there's an invisibility bubble around her that turns her intangible when any planes show up. And she doesn't do this in storms. I'm lucky I know why it's called bad humor ice cream. Normally I'd just be really confused at the terrible marketing, but now I know that good humor man used to mean ice cream man. From Garfield. How the hell did that happen? Is she so desperate to spite mortals that she's naming it the opposite of that just because she's a witch? It turns out all of the ice cream flavors suck. That's unrealistic. They have a picture of chocolate ice cream on the ice cream cart. I guess it only looks like chocolate. Is she really that much of a hipster that she won't have the known flavors just be different? She'd run out of business then. It's a shame. I loved that they got to meet another witch on Earth. In the next page, someone at a carnival asked Hilda if she could knock over 3 cans with 1 bowl. I didn't even realize Hilda was whispering at first glance because the text bubble looked like a normal one. But after really looking at it, oh, she was whispering just because she had her hand at the side of her mouth. He'd still hear her. She says that she's gonna cheat with her hex ball pitch and hits all of the cans. In the next page, it means a lot to Harvey that she bought him a t-shirt. I like how the comic's showing self-awareness as Harvey lampshades, and I thought you were out to get me. I figured you only looked on me as a target for your abuse, someone you could zero in on. You really care about me. You're terrific. It's so obvious that the gift will disappoint him, so he gets upset because it's a pink shirt with a picture of a target on it. You'd think a guy in the 70s would have been upset right away because it was pink. At least this makes sense, even if it undercuts the heartwarming dialogue. In the next page, someone in a clothing store says that the dress with the black bat design is Hilda, even though she knows it's the ugliest dress in the shop. Well, she has a point, because Hilda is dressed like a witch, and has got bats on it, which are somehow associated with them and not just vampires. I'd expect Hilda to pick out the dress herself, even if she'd want to change its color. It could be blue. Instead, because she implied that she thinks Hilda's ugly, she gets turned into a frog, and told to hop over and get her the pink outfit. Pink? For a witch like her? I'm impressed that she's even considering getting new clothes. Anyone would get bored of the same type of outfit over and over. And she's worn this stuff for centuries. At that point, she wouldn't buy a new outfit. In the next story, Harvey says, "I bet you'll never guess in a million years what I'm taking up, Sabrina." Hilda thinks, "I know, it's space." That was a great quip. Too bad she kept it in her head, even though her mouth is open. Harvey wants to be the trumpet player for the school band, and because he's incompetent at everything in this comic, he sucks at this too. Well, he does say he needs to practice, but Sabrina's being pretty sadistic if she's smiling at Hilda complaining. He's like the Antoine of this comic. He sucks at everything. At least he's not a coward all the time, except whenever a tough guy threatens him. Anytime his life is in danger, but that's normal. Hilda casts a spell so that nothing will come out of the trumpet, and then he gets blasted with music. Sabrina tells him to go outside with her so he can play it there. Oh sure, bother the neighbors. Wasn't she supposed to be nice? I don't blame Hilda for this at all. And it's not like she has anywhere else to go where she can do whatever she wants. She's not an avid TV watcher. And she doesn't want to be run out of her own house. That's why she didn't want the winter to run her out of the state. Harvey doesn't know how there's bubbles in his trumpet. And he and Sabrina like that, as Sabrina somehow doesn't know how he did that. Then he blows gum on himself. Shouldn't Sabrina hate that squealing noise just as much? She has so much tolerance. She could be a music teacher for kids. But I guess Stella would hate her for doing that too. Or is she allowed to help people as long as it's not with her magic? Otherwise, that'd severely limit her job options. She'd have to get a job that solely inconveniences people. Sabrina says to zap up something worthwhile. And the story ends with Hilda saying the lie that Sabrina's a lot smarter than she gives her credit for, as Hilda's got earmuffs and a bubble over her head. It's good that she was smart, but wouldn't Hilda have done that? I guess it's okay because Hilda's got a temper, so she'd want to focus on spiting Harvey and that's all. It's Sabrina who'd focus on this, but it'd work better if it was Ambrose. He's the smart one. In the first story, the neighbors start planning to put in a pool, and when Hilda finds out they can't afford it, she makes sure they win the lottery so they can. Then Dell steps in to be a bitch. It wouldn't be so bad if she was mad at her because she cheated the lottery and made the wrong people win. She threatens to take away her powers for a month if she doesn't do something evil enough. So Hilda makes their son a nature nut and they leave for the week. But fortunately, despite what I was dreading the entire story, the writer didn't rob Hilda and Sabrina of the pool they wanted. I was too surprised to be happy because I was expecting a downer ending since Stella was stressing me out. It's good that she relaxed because she liked the pool too. But she never should have been this mad in the first place. Who cares if she changed who'd win the lottery? It's just random chance, there's no skill involved in it. We weren't told that the neighbors didn't deserve to win as much as the real winner. The second story has Hilda not want to do gardening the mortal way just to humor Sabrina. So instead of warping to someone else's house and watching TV for a while, and using magic if they bother her, she flies on a broomstick and ends up getting distracted by a bird and crashes into a tower, which caused her to get flung by a tree into a garbage truck. I actually ended up smiling because of how ridiculous and mean it was. It lasted longer than I expected. She could have easily avoided this. She didn't deserve punishment like this just for not wanting to do the weeding with her. She was right, Sabrina should have just zapped them away. It wouldn't be so bad if this story was a direct continuation of the previous main story. It'd be a punishment to her for turning someone's son into a nature nut living in the woods. I assume that he got talked out of it because his parents left home for a week because of him. The final story is about Hilda using magic to mess with Harvey for a very good reason because he was selfish enough to try to badly practice the trumpet where she could hear him. Why was he dumb enough to do this near his girlfriend? She sure is loyal to him to put up with that willingly. Not to mention to barely cheat on him. What took her so long to think of the idea of making Hilda unable to hear the trumpets? She's all about helping people with her magic. She would have done this after Harvey blew bubbles at latest.